I know it's live on YouTube, but is there a link from our website, or is our website announced that?
There's a link through our Facebook page and our Twitter, and I believe our Instagram as well.
Okay, so I'll ask everybody to, if they're not speaking, to put on your mute button, because sometimes the background information, background noise, sorry, comes out loud and clear, too loud and clear. So if somebody wanted to watch this tonight, they can go to our Facebook page, Town of CBS, and there's a link there to take you to YouTube Live. And we're still waiting on 2 people to join us.
Guys, just one thing before we start. The agenda is going to be up on the screen, right?
It will.
Okay.
Yeah,
thanks.
it will. I just want to say again, make sure, guys, to turn your mute button on, because you can hear lots of background noises when you're not speaking, if you don't mind. Ah, there we go. Good job, Darren. Any up? 2 of you came back at the same time. It's all good.
I know John Heffernan is in another spot. I just left there and came in. I don't know if we want to send him a note or not.
Yeah, I think he's back.
Yeah, I'm good now. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah.
All right, guys, so we'll start it off tonight. We'll start off, I guess, with the call the meeting to order for April 21st, 2020 at 7:09. We're 9 minutes late, so it's not bad considering considering technology, and we're all learning it slowly but surely. Slowly for me anyway. So first of all, motion to adopt the meeting agenda for April 21st, 2020. Moved by.
So move.
Oh, second.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Excuse me. Adoption of the meeting minutes of April the 7th, 2020. Moved by,
Junior.
seconded by,
Darren.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Minded? Carried. So before we get into the business tonight, I'd like to refer to Councillor Bent, please. We recently had a terrible tragedy in Nova Scotia, and Darren, if you would speak to that, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Of course, over the past 2 or 3 days, our thoughts and prayers have turned to our friends, family in Nova Scotia. You know, I understand this afternoon that the total of victims is now up to 23, I believe, from this rampage. And of course, it's touched all of us. You know, it happened along a stretch of country road, not unlike many country roads that run through our own province here. And it's just as devastating to think of something like that happening in a rural area in Nova Scotia as it could be anywhere. And we're very saddened by what's taken place over there, and our hearts go out to the people of Nova Scotia. You know, also, my thought turned, of course, Sunday morning right away. I have a brother that lives not more than 20 minutes away from where a lot of this took place, and of course they're all safe over there, and I'm very pleased to say that. But you know, it's an area that is going to be hurting for a long time. You know, it's a rural area with small communities, and everybody knew each other. Everybody knows each other over there, and as well to the RCMP, deepest condolences. When you lose someone who is out there doing their job, protecting all of us, to lose their life is truly heartbreaking. So to all of our friends and families in Nova Scotia, our thoughts are with you. And we just hope that you find some strength in our support and in each other to help you get through this terrible time. And Your Worship, if I could, I would like to call for a moment of silence now for those who lost their lives in Nova Scotia. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Bent. Well said. So moving right along. Business arising from previous minutes. There being none. New business. So this is where we usually go around the horn. So I'll start off with Deputy Mayor Murphy.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just to expand a little bit on Councillor Bent's comments, of course, our hearts and prayers go out to the people of Nova Scotia, and of course, because of the pandemic, it's that much more difficult when these people, these families, have to keep social distancing in mind, and it's just it's terrible. I can't even fathom how these people are going to manage to get through all of this. But again, our hearts go out to them. Again, Your Worship, we have some concerns in our own town. You've mentioned the other day in the media, we have about 30 cases here in Conception Bay South, positive cases, and it's a little bit disturbing, when we realize that social distancing within our community is not being followed the way it should, with public gatherings at certain places around our community. And I just, I beg the public, our residents, to please, adhere to the policies as set down by the Department of Health and government. It's just not worth it, because at the end of the day, it's our own people, our own families who will be affected by this. So, again, please stop the social gatherings in the public areas, and hopefully we'll get through this together. So that's about it for me, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Murphy. Councillor Uden.
Yeah, just a couple of things. First off, I'd certainly like to acknowledge that this week is Volunteer Appreciation Week. Several volunteers in our community certainly drive a lot of things that happen in CBS, and once we get back to normal, we'll work away around thanking them. But in lieu of, I guess, the current circumstances, a big thank you to all the volunteers that make CBS what it is as a community. The second thing I'd like to talk about is just from discussions in recreation and so forth, and we're trying to find new ways around different things. It's not the same, but I know staff have reached out with a virtual trivia night, and that I believe had 20 people participate, and they did a Facebook challenge on Foodie Fridays, and I think there's an upcoming one this Friday where they share recipes and so forth. But they're going to be looking at different ways in which to connect to the community and in a virtual way, and hopefully that will bring us to the other side of I guess COVID-19. That's it for me, Your Worship. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Uden. Councillor Tilley.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge our area MHAs, MHA Din, MHA Petton, and MHA Ottenheimer. Of course, those folks were instrumental in getting some much needed road work here in CBS for the hopefully in June or July. We're going to see a fair chunk of Foxter Bex's Road with new pavement, and they're going to look at some road improvements for Route 60 from Greeleytown down to Manuel's Bridge. And of course, I'd be remiss too if we don't recognize the Minister Crocker with Transportation Works. Obviously they're the guys who are the ones who divvy out all the money for all the stuff, and so of course badly needed work, and looking forward to the road repairs in those areas and other areas throughout the town as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tilley. Councillor Hillier.
Yes, Your Worship. Yes, Your Worship. I had an opportunity this afternoon to go to the mailbox. And what should I find but this literature that's probably in everybody's mailbox today. It's the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. And first of all, I'm not out selling tickets today, but I thought it was worth showing today. This is an ocean view house, 2-story, lots of windows on the bay, a couple of patios. You ask how I know about it. I've watched it being built. And the reason why we watched it being built is because this house is in Conception Bay South this year. And we're really proud to have the home for the home lottery this year. We're excited about it. Obviously, it's tough time selling tickets at this point in time, but we certainly encourage anyone to go have a look at it. It's off Cherry Lane down in Manuals. As I said, we're excited. We hope that this will be a success. If it's a real success, we could get another house another year. So I just want to pass that along to our residents tonight. Thank you.
Good job. Beautiful area. I have to agree. Councillor Bent.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of things this evening. So like over the past few days, there have been no new cases of COVID-19 and there have been some recoveries, but at least for the time being, we can't let our guard down. So again, I'm asking residents to continue to physical distance, not to gather as the weather gets warmer over the next week and into the weekend. I know throughout the town, there have been some problem areas and we've reluctantly closed down Topsail Beach and Worsley Park based on concerns of people gathering and not following protocols. And of course, everything will be reviewed constantly with regards to that. But the sooner we can knock this down, the sooner we can get back to our regular lives and we can get back to these areas that we love to enjoy so much, especially as the weather gets warmer. On another note, Your Worship, I want to speak for a second about the Spirit of Alex and Riley, known as SOAR. Each year in Conception Bay South, we celebrate the memories of Alex and Riley Mercer on their birthday, May 9th. And the way we do that is by giving back to the community in their memory through donations to the CBS Paradise Food Bank. This year is going to be a little bit different, but two things will remain the same. We will celebrate the lives of these two beautiful children taken too soon, and we will still be able to support the food bank in a new way to help sustain it through the summer like we've done in the past. This year, instead of thousands of pounds of food to abide by COVID-19 protocols, Louise and Bernie Mercer are going to go to online donations that will go directly to the food bank. So during the week leading up to the celebration of Alex and Riley's birthday, anyone can donate through a website set up at canadahelps.org, and there'll be more media out about this as well, but it's at canadahelps.org, which is linked directly to our local food bank. So what you donate goes directly to them and receipts will be issued from them. So whether it's $5 or $10 or $100 or more, every single cent is important to sustain our food bank, and you will be honoring the memories of Alex and Riley through the donations. And with the food bank serving 320 families each month, the Mercers have set a goal at $20,000, but I think that we can beat that. And let's just think of it this way, and Louise put it in perspective for me. If we were to put 4 tins of soup in a basket, that's 1 tin of soup a week for a month. If that tin of soup costs $1, and we know it costs more than $1, most of the tins of soup out there now, that would cost $1,280 for the food bank for a month just to give a can of soup to each family per week. That's only 1 item per week. So when you think about it, all donations will make a big difference. You know, the Mercers will be releasing full details of this week on social media and other platforms. I know the town will help promote it through their social media sites as well. So I encourage everyone, no matter where you are, no matter how small the donation you can afford, to give to this year's online Spirit of Alex and Riley Food Bank fundraiser. We can't do it in person, but this is one way that we can make a big difference, and we don't even have to leave our homes. So that's fantastic. And I want to again thank Louise and Bernie for their selfless work they do to help our community in such a meaningful way. And of course, you know, I think the strain from COVID-19 will no doubt hit our food bank at some time soon. So anything we can do there to help them would be great. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Bursey. Councillor Bercy, I can't hear you. You're gonna have to turn on your, there you go.
That's
Perfect.
better.
Good
Yes,
stuff.
sir. Just, just a couple of things. I'd like to send my condolences to the family and friends of the victims up in Nova Scotia, and of course the first responders. They had to go to the scene and face this horrific, terrible tragedy. And I just want to say to express my heartfelt condolence to the family and the first responders. And that being said, though, the second thing I'd like to talk about is the recycling. Just a brief statement. Town of Conception Bay South continues to monitor its recycling services as the COVID-19 pandemic evolves. Council views recycling as an important environmental responsibility of the town, but out of the abundance of caution and safety, has decided to discontinue continue the suspending this non-essential service for the time being. The coronavirus is having a devastating impact around the world. We have 30 individual confirmed cases in CBS alone, with many more waiting test results or staying home in self-isolation. Council is very concerned of these large numbers and a rapid pace with which the virus can spread. Under the town's recycling program, our employees are required to physically lift the recycling bags and place them into the recycling vehicle. As the virus can survive on the services for 24 hours or more, staff who collect these recycling would need to wear the appropriate level of personal protective equipment. The supplies of the PPE are very short across the country, and Conception Bay South only has access to a limited supply. We cannot justify, nor are we prepared to redirect supplies to a non-essential service when they may be in need, where they may be needed in not is too distant future for critical services such as frontline response vehicles, response personnel, or close quarter repairs to vital infrastructure. All options to provide recycling services are being evaluated, and we will continue to so and government direction change and new information becomes available. The town of Conception Bay South would like to thank the public for their cooperation and understanding during this time. That's all for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bercy, first responder yourself for many, many years, still
Yeah.
working next to the field, so thank you too. So, Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this time, I'd also like to extend my condolences, my thoughts and prayers to all those affected by the tragedy in Portapeak and Gloucester area in Nova Scotia. I also have family in the area, a little further away, half an hour or so away, but still it's a worry when you don't know what's really going on. And my daughter was actually concerned because there was no alert or anything like that that came out. And that was something that they did talk about. So my thoughts and prayers to all that are affected, and it goes beyond Nova Scotia, all across Canada, and even maybe in areas in the world where people have lost family members. So my heart goes out to everybody there, and I'm not very good at doing that, but I'll try. Thank you, Your Worship. I'll have more on community economic development during my recommendations. Thank you.
Councillor Davis.
Yes, Your Worship. Today, I'm thanking some wonderful ladies who are helping others during these challenging times. Back around March 25th, a young lady from Conception Bay South, Jolynn Butt, took it upon herself to find a video on how to make a mask. She needed this to help out her sister, who is an essential worker and has had some health issues. This started her desire to help others in need. Jolynn reached out to her friends from her quilting group, the Quilters Quest. Some were already making masks for family and friends. Together, they started the Facebook group known as the Mask Bandits. The orders started to come in. One of the first orders was from a business in Carbonear. This group reached out to a lady from that area who stepped up, made those masks, and delivered them. They received and filled orders for the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary, funeral homes, chemo patients, pharmacies, nurses, and many, many more. This group has been quite busy filling all these orders. All the masks they have made are free to anyone who needs them to stay safe. Their goal is to help others and keep this act of kindness going. So far, this group has given away approximately 2,000 masks. Jolynn has a bag placed on her front door almost daily with new masks for the taking. I know many people who have taken advantage of this, including myself. Some individuals and business owners have stepped up with donations of material and discounts on supplies. Other residents have given back and donated some funds. These funds are used to purchase more supplies. All these ladies are very special people, and I would like to thank each one individually. We have Jolynn Butt, Tracy Parsons, Shelley Goodyear, Denise Petton, Lori Eason, Maureen Harvey, Charmaine Woodland, Pat Burden, and Ann Haynes. All these ladies are from Conception Bay South. We also have Donalda Murley, Portugal Cove, Darlene Hiscock Paradise, and Sharon Peach Carbonaire, and any others that I may have missed. A big thank you for all their hard work and kindness. It is appreciated. And that's it, Your Worship.
Thank you. Yes, and what a way, just to echo what start off with Councillor Uden had said, for volunteers, what a group of volunteers. I think is it the Mass Bandits that they've been coined, and they have been doing an incredible piece of work, and it just, I guess, exemplifies what the volunteers in Conception Bay South do all the time. And just to echo what Councillor Uden said, and not belabored, I certainly want to thank the volunteers for what they do in Conception Bay South and continue to do, especially in times of need when you see this happening. You know, there tonight we saw the Mercers, Councillor Bent mentioned, Bernie and Louise, and what they've done for all the right reasons. And now we see our friends creating masks for people. So, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of what people do and volunteer. And the amazing thing about it is volunteers, they do more than one thing in Conception Bay. So usually there's a group of volunteers, they're there whenever you need them. And so again, I want to acknowledge volunteers here in our town. We've talked a lot about COVID-19. There's been all kinds of really good messages tonight, but I'm going to try to end off tonight on a couple of good notes. The Trailway, I've noticed there's quite a few people out walking now, more so than ever. And we do realize that there are quite a number of parts of our Trailway that people can't walk because of rocks and so on. And, you know, there is no doubt there are safety issues in certain places. But I've asked staff today, or over the last couple of days, to start having a look at places along the Trailway where maybe just some minor repairs could enable people to walk, to do a circuit and make sure that they stayed, of course, physical distance apart. So we're going to have a look at that. Again, we're not going to open up anywhere that's not safe, that's deemed not safe, but there are certain sections that I'm aware of, smaller sections, but it still enables people to go and do a loop in their area, and which we all need a bit of relief from the housebound and, you know, all the kids out and so on. It's good to see families being able to take advantage. So although the trail won't be up and running like it was before, until we receive word on funding, we are going to have a look at some little things that we can do to hopefully maybe not open the trail, but just make it a little more passable for people. And of course, you still have to use it at your own risk, but nevertheless, make it a little bit more passable, a little bit more comfortable, especially with these nice days coming up and people wanting to get out for a walk. I think we had a great success story. We're on our third one now, I believe, happened this week, virtual inspection. So my hats come off to our town staff, people who work in occupational health and safety in our town, for people who work on the front lines as directors. These are things that they've been doing. Believe me when I tell you that there's an awful lot of people working a lot more time when this is on, believe it or not. And there's an awful lot of people working from home from our town. And for that, I want to thank them as well. But these are the types of things that they came up with. And that's a virtual inspection. So what we saw now, it's happened, we've done it 3 times. And we're basically, without having to send a man or a woman to the site to do the inspection, we're able to do it by technology. And, you know, that's still evolving. obviously, but it's something that we've been working on and something I'm very proud of staff for coming up with and enabling us to do some business while we're under this COVID-19 and dealing with a pandemic like we are. So I want to take my hat off to staff and to the people who do these inspections for coming up with a different way of doing business, but yet enabling us to still carry on some business. I don't know, I wouldn't call it business as normal, but it's certainly keeping the wheels of the town moving. For that, I want to thank them. And I want to end off on this one, and you'll probably see it. I think there's going to be announced today and tonight in a press release. And it's something that's been near and dear to my heart for, I'll say, 20 years. And I know I'm opening myself up there. Well, why didn't you get it done before this? So, but nevertheless, it's been on my radar for a number of years. And I know area residents has been on equally as long or longer in some cases. And what we're about to do is we've made an agreement with the school board and the provincial government, to which I want to thank the school board, Eastern School District, for taking part in this. And I also want to thank the Minister of Education for playing a role in this as well. And the local committee, which is made up, looks after the Conception Bay South Softball League, which at one point was called the Foxtrot Minor Softball League. And this is a little minor league that started many, many moons ago and was played next to the old All Saints School in Foxtrap, really, in Conception Bay South, but in Foxtrap on the corner of Dunshill Road and All Saints. And we've made an agreement with the local association, and God love them for taking this on. So it's the coming together, is getting the right people in the right place at all the right times, getting all the stakeholders to the table, if you will, and making this happen. And they're about to take over this facility from the town. Of course, we're not leaving them high and dry by any means. We're going to do what we've always done, and that's maintain the field and so on. And they're going to start a process of fundraising to get rid of the old school building. And then hopefully we can turn that into I know that the local softball association, made up of a group of ladies, are all full of vim and vigor and going to tackle this, flatten the building, and look out what they'll do next, because I'm excited by some of the things that they're hoping to do with the property. And of course, like I said, the town of Conception Bay South will be there. It'll be another green space and another cleaner looking place. But that old All Saints School has been an eyesore in the middle of a friendly neighborhood for decades, and it's time for it to go. I just want to thank all the stakeholders for coming together like they're about to do and get rid of that and then make that facility even a nicer facility than it currently is. So thank you very much. Special thanks to the Conception Bay South Minor Softball League Association for beating this drum for a long, long time and many, many years. And I know at one time, I think Councillor Tilley was well involved in that association. So I'm sure when he was involved with that association, he would have been more than happy to see that building disappear. And anyway, all the ducks are lined up now. So we look forward to that coming down as the days and weeks and months go on. So without any further ado, we'll move back to the agenda. And next on the agenda, we have visitors, presentations, and petitions. The first one, proclamation, is Volunteer Week. Whereas the town of Conception Bay South recognizes the enormous contribution that volunteers and community organizations make to the social, cultural, and economic development of our province. And whereas it has been recognized that more than 46% of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians over the age of 15 contribute an average of 151 volunteer hours each year, resulting in a significant and positive impact on the quality of life of our citizens. And whereas the town of Conception Bay South acknowledges the theme, Applauding Volunteers, for Volunteer Week 2020, and recognizes the many people who contribute to our community by volunteering. Therefore, with the support of the town council, I sign this proclamation and declare the period from April 19th to the 25th in 2020 to be observed throughout the town of Conception Bay South as Volunteer Week. Second proclamation I have is Mental Health Week 2020. Whereas mental health is an essential part of everyone's health and well-being, and whereas Mental Health Week has been hosted by the Canadian Mental Health Association in communities across Canada for 69 years, And whereas all people in Canada need to promote, protect, and nurture their mental health, and whereas promoting social connection is an important aspect of human life and an effective way to protect mental health, and whereas in these days of the COVID-19 pandemic, our community members may be experiencing further difficulties maintaining their mental health, and whereas in these days of social distancing, we as a community are experiencing great challenges to maintain our social connections, and whereas the municipality of Conception Bay South has a responsibility to promote mental health, particularly at a time of increased social distancing and social isolation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Conception Bay South hereby proclaim the week of May the 4th to May the 10th, 2020 as CMHA Mental Health Week. And I encourage all citizens to join me in underlining the importance of social connection in mental health. So thank you very much. Okay, moving on to our committees.
Your worship,
First-
if I may, I have a petition that I'd like to table.
Oh, sorry.
Just before we
Sorry,
get
Councillor
begin there, yeah. And very appropriate proclamations this week, I must say, especially with the mental health and how it's affecting everyone really for a number of reasons. And of course, the volunteers, as we mentioned earlier. Tonight, your worship, I have a petition. It's an addition to an earlier petition from residents in the town who are opposed to the proposed drill mud processing facility for the top of Fowler's Road. The petition I'm tabling has 25 additional names to the earlier petition. Now, this proposal, I understand provincial government has delayed it again and now requires further study. So I believe Councillor Hillier of the Planning Committee will be elaborating on that a little later. Of course, the residents have voiced a number of concerns with this type of processing plant, given its close proximity to homes, as well as a number of environmental concerns. So I have, I guess in this new way of doing things, I have emailed the additional names, the petition to the town clerk to be added to the previous group. And these, of course, were taken before the COVID-19 protocols came into place, so we couldn't get them tabled in the traditional way. And so this was the first opportunity to do that. So our town clerk now has them, and I consider them tabled as per regular. Thank you, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Bent. Okay, next we have the recommendations of the Planning and Development Committee Chair, Councillor Rex Hillier. Councillor Hillier, if you could turn on your mute button sound. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I had it muted. I had two dogs trying to get out. Yes, your worship. We've just got the blanket statement this afternoon or this evening coming from our April 14th meeting, but that's not to say that planning has not been busy over the last couple of weeks. You referenced some of the things that are being done with our inspectors, with our staff in trying to adapt to these situations that we're in currently. Also, we're trying to move our town plan, our new town plan forward. We've been working on this for over a year now, and we've seen this as an opportunity to spend some more time and see if we can't move this forward and get it come to completion by this fall. The other thing, or one of the other things, obviously we're involved in, as Councillor Bent indicated, is the proposal for the drill mud facility at Hop Street. And as you're aware, your worship, that project has been under environmental assessment since January. We'd hoped to have heard some kind of decision prior to this, but it's just this week that we've seen a decision come down from the minister. And basically what the minister is saying is that he's requiring the applicant to prepare an environmental preview report, which is the next step in the environmental assessment process. What this report will do will require the proponent to answer some of the questions that the minister felt were not adequately answered in the original proposal. So that's a complicated process. We expect that to go on for some months, and we've made a commitment that we will not be making any decisions on that until such time as we get a final decision from the minister. So that'll be ongoing sometime. I would expect maybe even into the new year. And with that, Your Worship, we bring forward the blanket recommendation. Be it so resolved that the recommendations, decisions made at Planning and Development Committee meeting of April 14, 2020 be accepted as presented. So move.
Seconder,
I second.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Councillor Hillier. Councillor Bercy.
The issue, worship, I have two recommendations. One, just a blanket one. But the first recommendation is for a lift station upgrades approval for award of engineering services. Recommendation. Please let it be resolved that approval be given to enter into prompt consultant agreement with Stantec for the lift station upgrades at the approximate cost of $80,075 plus HST. The funds are available in the project account.
So moved. Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, yes, Your Worship, further to that, just like to add a couple of points. The town has been committed to upgrading the sanitary sewer infrastructure for the last several years. Continuing our commitment, this project is scheduled to see upgrades to 3 sewer lift stations located along Exception Bay Highway in Manuals, Long Pond, and on Scotts Road North, Upper Gullies. Project details are in design phase and subject to change as the project progresses. All constructions updates will be posted on the town's website as information becomes available. That's it, Your Worship.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried.
And the second one's, Worship, just a blanket recommendation is let it be resolved that the recommendations and decisions made at the Engineering and Public Works Committee meeting of April 14th, 2020 be accepted and presented. So moved.
Seconder,
Second.
all those discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Councillor Bercy. Recommendations, the Recreation and Leisure Services Committee Chair, Councillor Kirk-Uden.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just one recommendation there, and it's something that we announced in the 2020 budget, but it's approval to call a RFP for a recreation culture master plan. I guess before I read the recommendation, just a little bit of background is 2008, I believe, was the last time we really had a master plan developed. And I think most, if not all, of, I guess, the activities in that has now been completed. And I guess this is a chance to go out and engage with the public to kind of shape what our blueprint for our recreation infrastructure, our cultural pieces that we need as a community, and what that's going to look like. And I guess that would guide council in its infrastructure projects and in its future initiatives and so forth. So pretty exciting time, and one which we're going to go out to residents and look at the demographics and say what's the plan for Conception Bay South for the next 5-10 years. So with that said, be it so resolved that approval be given to call and request for a proposal for a recreation and cultural master plan. So moved.
Seconder,
Second.
discussion? I'd just like to say before I move on, I think this is one of the things that is fair to say that all council supports, and not only the recreation, but the cultural piece as well, which is an integral part of any community and any society, really. And I'm looking forward to see what recommendations and what advice residents of the area are going to give us on both the recreation and the cultural piece, because I think it's so important in the fabric of your town. So looking forward to the results of that, actually, and listening to what people got to bring forward on it.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I know, just in the last 16, 18 months, there's been discussion about performance-based. There's been discussions, about a community center and so forth. So this is the time for the community to come together and say, look, here's our demographics. Here's where some of these things could happen. And here's how the town's going to plan for it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried.
The blanket recommendation, be it so resolved that the recommendations, decisions made at the Recreation and Leisure Services meeting of April 14th, 2020 be accepted as presented. So moved.
Seconder,
Second.
Second.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Uden. Next is the recommendations of the Financial Admin Services Committee Chair, Deputy Mayor Richard Murphy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before we get into the recommendations of the meeting held on April the 14th, there are two items we brought forward from Committee of the Whole today. The first item is capital invoices, of which I am going to leave the meeting and declare conflict of interest. Councillor Hillier is going to take us through that one. And
I'll be leaving.
I'll be back in a minute.
I'll be leaving the meeting as well under conflict of interest, Your Worship.
Okay, two you guys sign off. Give us 1 minute. I don't think it'll take too much longer than that. If it do, we'll drive you away again.
Okay.
I won't be coming back, Mayor French. I got that meeting to
Oh,
attend.
yes, work commitment. Yep, no problem. Thank you, Councillor Fiddler. Okay, Councillor Murphy. Okay, Councillor Deputy Mayor Murphy is gone. Councillor Hillier.
Your worship, I do not have that on the screen to read.
Okay, maybe the clerk could send that to you as a text maybe or something.
Sure.
Is that possible, Gail?
I can email it to him.
Okay.
Okay. I can, no, I can't. Thought I could pull it up quickly, but I can't.
Dead air is a no-no in broadcasting, Your Worship. So maybe if you might want to regale us with a story or a song.
Well, that's your background. Now, I think you're
That's quite
used to
all right.
running there.
We've saved the day. The Gail has saved the day.
Oh, good.
Your worship, capital invoices, resolution number 117. Be it so resolved that approval be given to pay capital invoices totaling $67,558.02 as indicated in the chart below. So moved.
Seconder,
Second.
discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. All right, so wait for Deputy Mayor Murphy to get back. But that was pretty fast there, clerk, for flicking that over to
She's good.
Councillor Hillier. I'm telling you, that was pretty good. But it took me a bit longer than that to figure that out. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Murphy. Thank you, Deputy. The floor is yours when you're ready.
You talking to me, Your Worship?
Carry on, sir.
Okay, thank you. The second item is coming from the Committee of the Whole meeting today as well, regarding Lawrence Pound Road Upgrade Phase 2, and it's the Prime Consulting Agreement approval. Council previously approved the engagement of progressive engineering consultants for the design and upgrade of Lawrence Pound Road. Due to funding limitations, this project was divided into two phases. Although the full design is complete, the next phase requires tendering, contract administration, and inspection services that are in addition to the original PCA. A new PCA is drafted for Phase 2 that requires council's approval. The majority of fees are for 65 days of inspection services and contract administration. All fees are based on previously approved proposal for hourly rates. And the recommendation is, be it so resolved that approval be given to enter into prime consulting agreement with Progressive Engineering Consultants for the Lawrence Pound Road upgrades, Phase 2, at the approximate cost of $77,857.16 plus HST. Funds are available in the project account. So moved.
Seconder,
Second.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, the following recommendations are coming from a meeting held on April 14th, 2020. Accounts payable check register, be it so resolved that approval be given to pay accounts payable checks totaling $159,125.24. So moved.
Seconder,
Second.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Ratification of manual checks previously released, be it so resolved that approval be given to ratify the payment of manual checks previously released totaling $27,688.97. So moved.
Seconder,
Second.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Tax and other receivables adjustments, be it so resolved that approval be given to adjust tax and other receivables accounts as follows, as noted in the recommendation, I'm sorry. So moved.
Seconder,
Second.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Tax, gas tax compliance audit, be it so resolved that approval be given to accept the 2019 gas tax audit as presented. So moved.
Seconder,
Aye.
Seconder.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
And this is.
Excuse me,
regard-
yeah, excuse me, Councillor Murphy, I have to declare conflict of interest for the next recommendation.
Okay, Councillor
So I'll have to
Butler,
leave- I'll have to leave the meeting, and could somebody please text me to let me know when you're finished, although I'm
we
sure.
will, in case there's
Okay.
some comments. Yep. I'll have the
Thank
clerk
you.
take. Thank you.
Okay, Your Worship, you mentioned this one earlier in your remarks, and this is to do with the All Saints School property. Be it so resolved that approval be given for the town of Conception Bay South to enter into a purchase and sale agreement with Newfoundland and Labrador English School District for the property situated on Duns Hill Road, Conception Bay South, in the amount of $10. And further, be it so resolved that approval be given for the town of Conception Bay South to enter into a purchase and sale agreement with the CBS Minor Softball Association Incorporated for the property situated on Duns Hill Road, Conception Bay South, in the amount of $10. So moved.
Seconder,
Second.
discussion? Must be inflation. I always thought you could make these exchanges for $1 one time, but I guess with inflation, they'll cost you 10 to do
Your Worship, if someone was to offer me that property for $10, I'd take it myself.
it.
Just to say, Your Worship, this is an excellent project, something that we've been, and I know you've been involved with right from the beginning with the people involved. It's truly a neighborhood facility where people can walk, kids can walk, ride their bikes to this particular property without having to go on the highway and so on. So it's great to be able to solidify this so that and put it into the hands of the softball people.
Councillor Hillier, not only did you live next door, I'm sure you played ball on that place facility as well.
Put the backstop up in 1972.
I knew. You're dating yourself again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried.
And the final recommendation, your worship, is be it so resolved that the
Deputy
recommendation.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
can we
Oh, I
wait
have.
for Councillor
I'm sorry.
Butler?
I'm sorry.
Yes. Thank you.
Rex, is the backstop that you built in 1972 still there?
No, there's been a whole lot of iterations there since then.
So it wasn't built to last.
They don't use chicken wire and 2x4s anymore.
Oh, okay.
I think that frame had about 10 rolls of chicken wire on it over the years. It was
Oh,
chicken wire
yeah.
over chicken wire and last got off, I think.
While we're waiting for Councillor Butler, your worship, that young chap Eaton was on with the cancer, youth cancer thing was on last night, and he was
Jeff
talking
Eaton.
about Shave for the Brave. And I was thinking this would be a good opportunity maybe to put a challenge out to all of the councillors. Now that we're not able to go get a haircut, maybe it's a good chance to get cleaned up and do a Shave for the Brave. And I would really put the challenge out to Councillor Bent, because he got the nicest head of hair I ever saw in my life.
Well, what I can tell you, Deputy, is that in preparation for the inevitable, everyone in this household has put dibs on the bowl of their choice. So I got my bowl picked out early. Just to ensure it's the right length around the ears, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, welcome back, Councillor Butler. The last recommendation be it so resolved that the recommendations, decisions made at the Financial and Administrative Services Committee meeting of April 14th, 2020 be accepted as presented. So moved.
Seconder,
Second that motion.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Recommendations of the Economic Development and Tourism Committee Chair, Councillor Christine Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship. We just have the blanket recommendation, but I do have a couple of highlights and activities that have gone on with economic development and tourism. First of all, a little update on RV dumping station. The town will be issuing a call for expressions of interest for the installation of an RV dumping station from anyone who might be interested in hosting this service at their commercial location. The service was at one time provided by a local business, but when the business closed, the service went with it and is missed by those who utilize this service. A notice will be released on social media, in the shoreline, and through our business networks in the coming weeks. So that's good news for the tourism area. A little note on the community garden. The Community Garden Committee is proceeding with their schedule of events for 2020, including a free virtual workshop on Wednesday, April 22nd, titled Building Soil Quality and with Tom Loader, sorry. Anyone who wishes to participate should visit their Facebook page for details. The seed saving workshop that was held in March can also be viewed online. The committee is also continuing the 2020 plans to offer leased beds to anyone interested from the Gateway Garden and expand their initiatives to include satellite gardens in other areas of the town. And one other note I'd like to make, business support during COVID-19. Economic development staff are continuing to work with local business communities to help them navigate, now that's a hard word, navigate through the supports that are becoming available to them from both federal and provincial governments. Last week, I attended an open forum. Actually, I was online like this, virtual, hosted by the Conception Bay Area Chamber of Commerce, which was a great medium to hear from businesses and how they are surviving and what they may need. MHA Petton and MP Ken McDonald also participated and were answering questions and assuring the business community that we are all in this together with the goal to come out of it stronger than ever. in the coming week, the Chamber of Commerce and municipalities on the Northeast Avalon will be launching a Shop Right Here campaign, highlighting businesses that are continuing to provide products and services in a virtual manner. And we see many of them around the areas, curbside shopping, order and pick it up, or they deliver. I encourage residents and my council colleagues to continue to support local wherever possible. And to continue with the recommendation, blanket recommendation from a meeting held April 14th, 2020, be it so resolved that the recommendation decisions made at the Economic Development and Tourism Committee meeting of April 14, 2020 be accepted as presented. So moved.
Seconder,
I second it.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those
Thank you.
opposed?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, motion carried.
Thank you, Your Worship.
So that almost clues up the evening. Other committee reports? There being none, before I had this in my notes and I just picked up on it. Before I call for a motion to adjourn, I also want to acknowledge our Chief Medical Officer here in this province, our Premier Ball, and Minister Haggie for what they're dealing with right now. I can't imagine what they've been dealing with and the hours that they're punching, and all for the common good. And just last week, I had to call Minister Haggie and ask him a question about some things we're trying to do in the town, and was quite glad that he phoned me back within record time. And like I said, and I assured him at the time that thanked him for doing what they were doing, and asked him to share from Conception Bay South that, look, there's no playbook to deal with what you're dealing with, and they're doing a bang up job and getting messaging out, preparing every day for that 2 o'clock. That's not as easy as it looks, let me tell you. And these people are burning the midnight oil, getting it done, and my hat's off to them. And on behalf of the residents of Conception Bay South, I certainly want to thank them for doing a bang up job and what they're doing. I shared that with Minister Haggie and asked him to send along our thanks. So without any further ado, I'll call for motion to adjourn.
Second that motion.
So move.
Well, thank you very much, guys, and have a good night. And I'm sure we'll be talking in the next day or two on other issues again. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thanks, Your Worship.